Hey guys, Misery here, back with another CZN video, and today's topic is an updated deck farming guide for Lab 0. My previous deck farming guide video is a bit outdated, so I wanted to make a new and more in-depth video for farming decks and how I get endgame decks. So starting off, I wanted to showcase some of my decks that I have, just so you can see what I can get with this method and how I farm decks. So I've done thousands and thousands of runs, and I've min-maxed super hard. I am a hardcore farmer. I don't expect most people to farm as hard or min-max as hard as me, but I do still hope that this video and some of the things I talk about can help you farm some decks. So I wanted to show off, as you see on the screen right now, I have this Serennial deck. This is probably my final Serennial deck. I farmed this in about like a day or two. You see I have 4 homing lasers with 2 vulnerable divine on each of them. Ideally, you'd want to get rid of this pulse fire. Unfortunately, I did not get Mutant sample that run, and the shining core is a bit mid, but besides that, the plasma missile and cobalt light are good, and this gear is good. But this is just one of the decks that I wanted to show you. I also have my Veronica build. I have this triple repose, 0 cost, 1 AP with the ally attack weapon, best pendant in the game with a divine on it, Forbidden Hunger, and then I also have this Veronica deck, which is a little bit worse but still good and maybe better in some situations. And then I have my Mika deck, which is just a triple source of water divine, 1 AP on each, ally attack weapon, even got the cape on her, and I got a gear bag with 1 AP. Also got my 0 card Nia deck and my 1 card Ray deck. And then finally, I've got my Kayron deck. This is my main one, but I have so many other ones. I have this one with 4 divines. I have this one with 3 divines. Another 3 divine. Well, there's 4 here. 3 divine echo futility. And then I have a quad echo futility here. But as you see, like most of these divines on these are just good. 2 vulnerable, 0 cost echo, even with a 18% attack weapon. And this one's just a meme deck, but yeah. And if we go over here into Lab 0, yes, this is going to be a video for Lab 0 and not Zero System. Why I farm Lab 0 is that, yes, Lab 0 has its cons, I will not deny that, but the single reason why Lab 0 will always clear Zero System for me personally is because the free reset feature. Not to mention, when you leave or escape a run, it keeps your world, and you don't lose it, so you can keep doing the same world over and over with ease. And it doesn't matter if Zero System has a higher Epiphany rate or copy encounter rate because of how much I reset. Because I reset so much for the perfect RNG and the perfect starts to every run that just outvalues Zero System altogether. But it really depends how much time you have. If you have a good amount of time, Lab 0 is going to be far better. But for a casual player who can only do a few runs a day, then Zero System is going to be better. It's not going to be the same for each and every person. Every person has a different life and different time priority. So whatever is best for you will be based on how much time you put into the game. And now getting into the difficulties. These difficulties do not matter except difficulty 8 over here. This is where you can start getting, as you see on the screen, I have a tier 14 world, which is tier 15 on nightmare mode. That is the highest point cap that you can possibly get, which is 170 points. But ideally, when searching and re-rolling for a world, you do not want decreased max HP, you do not want fortitude, or you don't want discard 1 card in your hand at the start of the turn each time. And ideally, if you cannot get minus credits, avoiding that would be good too, but that one is doable and not as bad as the others. Me personally, I will explain later on why minus credits, if you cannot get it, it's going to be better. But that is already 4 world modifiers that I set in a small list, so it's going to be hard not to get any of those, but just like keep it in mind that you don't really want to go for those. You may be asking, if you shouldn't go for Fortitude 2, then why do you have it on your world? Well, with the newest edition, Serennial, she makes Fortitude 2 a breeze. Otherwise, I would not recommend Fortitude 2, aka Harden 2, the world modifier, on any of your worlds. Harden 1 is fine, but Harden 2 can brick some of your runs if you don't have Serennial. She's just amazing and she makes this modifier a joke. But something I wanted to touch up on also is that tier 15, aka tier 14 like the world I have now, it can cost up to 10,000 of these white pure fragments, which is super expensive. So if you want to settle for a tier 13, aka tier 14 on nightmare mode, it is okay if you want to do that. It's just going to be 10 less points. It's going to be 160 points rather than 170 that the tier 15 has, but it is okay. Some decks require 170, but if you're not min-maxing super hard, then it's not going to matter too much. And then onto the card costs for each type of card. I assume, as most of you know, each specific type of card costs a certain amount of points. Like divines can be 20, neutrals can be 20. After the first dupe, the second one is 10 on top of the card you copy. So it would be 30 for a divine instead of 20 if it is a second dupe on that character. But on the screen right now, I'm gonna put a huge list of the point caps and how much each specific card type costs, because I know it'll probably help you understand more if it's a visual representation rather than me saying it. So I'll leave that up for a bit just so you guys can understand it and get familiar with it if you're new to this game. But if you didn't know, you can actually check your point cap in game by clicking your 3 units faces in the top left while you're in a run, and you can see if you're going to over cap or not. It definitely can be improved to make it more dummy proof, but it's nice for now that we have a way to see it in game. And then onto the Kyrken's blessings. The 3 you mainly want to start with are remove 2, whether it be decrease max HP or the increased stress, the remove 1 no penalty, or the 3 1 HP battles, as long as it's no random epiphany. If it has a neutral card, that's okay, because some units want neutral cards, like Cassius wants a force learning apparatus, or Miko wants gear bag or rally. But you need to keep in mind that you do not want to get a bunch of neutral cards, because neutral cards can steal your divine epiphanies and your copy slots in your copy encounters, which is not good. But I don't start a run unless I have the remove 2 Kyrken blessing, so I just back out if I don't get it until I get it. But the cards I remove are 2 non-unique cards of the other units I'm not focusing, because it means higher chance for copy later on, since unique cards can't be copied, making the percentage higher for the card you want to be copied. But Veronica is best in slot for farming decks for anyone due to how many unique cards she has. 2 unique cards with a chance at a 3rd one on her pendant epiphany, which is why I always try to wait and remove pendant last in case I get the unique epiphany on it. But since Veronica starts with the unique already, you only need to remove 1 other non-unique card of your other units, unless you're farming Veronica. Then say you use Serennial Veronica Mika, you'd remove Serennial's homing laser and Mika's source of water. But if you're farming Serennial in that comp, you'd only remove Mika's source of water and then a basic on Serennial, because the card Veronica starts with is a unique. If you're like me, you'll be resetting 24/7 and losing the buff, aka the blessings, after Kyrken. But that doesn't matter too much, just getting the 10% max HP and 1 neutral card blessing is fine, but you can skip the 1 neutral card, unless it's one you need. But yeah, skip is always almost the answer, since it can take a divine or copy slots. But when you reach the halfway checkpoint, that's when you can actually start obtaining save data and leave with it. But also upon reaching the halfway point, your next run will have one of the blessings that are after the Kyrken blessings. But with how much I reset, I don't really see those often unless I get lucky and get remove 2 Kyrken blessing the next run without having to reset. But those blessings after Kyrken can give legendary equipment, even ones you don't have unlocked, like the level 30 exploration twin stars weapon. I've got through one of those and my twin stars is only level 13, so you can get legendary equipment that wouldn't regularly be able to be obtained in Lab 0 through those blessings, even probably Chains of Obsession, but it's a super low chance and not even worth to chase that. And nobody's after Chains of Obsession anymore anyway, since we're past the phase 1 rift. But once you get into the run, if you have the first potential node unlocked on your unit, which I would assume you do, you'll start with a random 1 of 2 epiphany, which for Serennial it is Shining Core or Plasma Missile. So if you're after a Cobalt Light deck for whatever reason, it's going to be harder to get because you can't start with it and need RNG involved to proc the epiphany. And this is the case for every unit in the game. They all have 1 card that they can't start with, so it makes grinding decks based around that specific card harder. So after getting the remove 2 blessing after Kyrken, I would see if I got Shining Core or Plasma Missile, and if I don't get the specific one I'm after, I'd back out. So if I were after a Shining Core deck but got Plasma Missile, I'd back out until I get the remove 2 Kyrken blessing with Shining Core. But this is super min-max and takes up a lot of time, so it may just be best to settle for remove 1 or even the 3 1 HP battles for the Kyrken blessing and then get the specific card you want, as those are a lot more common than the remove 2 Kyrken blessing. If you don't have much time for runs, Serennial is easy to farm because you don't even want to go after Shining Core or Plasma Missile. You usually want to get 4 copies of Laser, which is the card she starts with, so no RNG is involved or needed if you're just going after her best deck. And then when you start your run, of course you're going to want to scout ahead to see which path is optimal. What I prefer to do is take as many question mark encounters so it procs as little amount of epiphanies as possible, keeping my chances the highest for the dimensional tunnel and hope I get Call of the Void and can select the divine on the specific card I want for that deck. But if you're having trouble with sustain and survivability, it's also just good to scout ahead and avoid elite mobs or rare species mobs that may brick your run. I know a lot of people's runs get bricked by mobs like Bat Gina, the guy with the dogs and that green face, the elite mob with the red tentacle arm, or even the wolf elite. especially if they have rare species variant on them. They can be quite challenging and easily break your run. Unless you're confident that you can kill them and be comfortable after the fight and all the ones after it, I suggest not to take them. And in the first floor, there will be an encounter named Cleaner of Pelsion. That encounter, from what I know, is guaranteed in every single run no matter what. It's the one with the robot guy in the suit who's offering you the rare administrator ID badge equipment, or offering a deal that is 100 credits or an epiphany to a random unit. Now this piece of equipment is underrated and can come in pretty clutch. Keep in mind, it's only in Lab 0 seasonal runs. But if you're struggling to stay alive or are low on HP, this can be a lifesaver for you. With the new addition of Serenial, I don't think a lot of people will have this problem unless you don't have or don't pull her. But me personally, I just like to take the 100 credits if it's an option. Otherwise, if it's the random unit Epiphany, I take the badge and sell it for 30 credits. But something also worth mentioning is that it gives you the option to fight the encounter, even if it's a question mark zone. So if you kill them, they'll give you all the options, not just the one. And this is good to know if you need an extra fight in a run for an extra chance to proc a specific epiphany. Just like how some people do the extra fights in the third secret boss, the triple question mark encounter, after second boss to try and proc epiphanies before the run ends. So if you kill the administrator badge guy and he's offering you the badge or 100 credits, if you kill him, you'll get both the badge and 100 credits. And it should be the same if it is the random unit epiphany. Ideally though, you want to be skipping every encounter that gives you an option to select an epiphany to a unit or an epiphany to a random unit. If you're trying to search for a specific epiphany or divine on a card, getting more epiphanies and cards will lower the percentage in the dimensional tunnel for a divine to hit that specific card you want. And same for the copy encounter. The more the cards you have, the less chance of it being copied. But sometimes, depending on the situation, it can be okay to take the select option and put it on the unit you're building that run. If you haven't maybe procced a card that you need, or it's after the first floor dimensional tunnel. But before that, I never take epiphany options just to keep my chances the highest. Self-encroachment and a mouthful encounters. These encounters will be crucial and help a lot due to thinning the cooldown for copy and divine chances, because they're free removes. Self-encroachment will always be remove one card, whether it be the rare encounter version of it or not. And a mouthful event is a rare encounter, so it's more rare but allows you to remove 2 cards instead of 1 like the encroachment. And you'll be wanting to remove non-unique cards, of course, for higher chances. And the most ideal outcome is getting to the first boss with everyone's card removed besides the unit that you're building that run. Like I said before, you should always be removing non-unique cards, especially every time you get a shop encounter, because you want to thin the cooldown to get copy and divine chances higher on the card you want. And something I personally like to do is sell every piece of gear I get for credits, because if it's not going to be best in slot or make the final cut for my deck, I'm not going to use it. So I'd rather have the credits so I can remove more cards from the shop, because it starts at 80 credits for a remove and goes up 40 after every remove. So 80 to 120, 120 to 160, 160 to 200, etc. But it's also not a bad idea to pick gear on your units just to get those base stats for the run. I just personally prefer selling because I like to be stocked up on credits, especially if I'm on a minus credits world modifier, where it's harder to get credits, meaning it's harder to get removes from the shop. But it's also good to buy specific neutral cards here if you need them, like Force Learning Apparatus for Cassius, Gearback for Mika, or maybe even Rally for Mika. Or if you can't get them in the shop, because I know like Force Learning Apparatus is quite rare in the shop, but you can also take neutral cards just from any encounter event that offers neutral cards if you need a specific one and you can't get them in the shop. But just keep in mind, you don't want too many neutral cards, and neutral cards are bad because they can steal your divine epiphanies if you get a random divine epiphany in the tunnel or just a floor 2 encounter, and they can also steal your copy slots in your copy encounters like Heart of Orvane or after the bosses. But the next obstacle of RNG is up to you, and it is one of the most important counters in the game, which is the Mutant sample event. So as some of you may know, the Mutant sample encounter's name is Remnants of Failure, but you may also notice another counter has the same name. And that is correct, but a lot of people don't know once you get the Remnants of Failure encounter with the credits that you have to roll a dice for, you can no longer get the Mutant sample one that entire run. You'd have to back out and do another run and get the encounter again and hope it's Mutant sample. There's only 1 Remnants of Failure encounter per run, and it has a 1 out of 2 chance encounter, with it being 1 the Mutant sample event or 2 the credits one where you roll a dice. And both of these can only spawn on the first floor. It doesn't matter where on the first floor, it can be first half or second half of the first floor. But the reason why this is so important is because it is a free remove without having to use your faint memory point cap, because due to the card having the remove modifier on it, it will disappear from your deck when the run ends, but it will still get rid of whatever card you converted for free. So on a tier 15 world with 170 point cap, I would be able to remove 4 cards with that 170 points, 20 for the first, 30 for the second, 50 for the third, and 70 for the fourth. The Mutant symbol can remove a 5th, all for free, and this can be crucial to making a 0 or 1 card deck like I showed before with my 0 card Nia deck and my 1 card Ray deck. But if you have the credits encounter, always take the dice roll 10 for 140 credits, because even if you lose, you'll still get 60 and lose a little HP, whereas guaranteed credits is just 20 more. It guarantees you 80, so it's worth to take the risk for the extra 60 credits to get 140 instead of 80 than just the guaranteed 80. And then next we have the Dimensional Tunnel. So usually after I get what I want from the Kyrken's Blessing, they remove 2 and starting the run with the correct card. If it's not the base card they start with, which if you're trying to build a deck around the base card they start with, like Laser for Serennial, it's a lot easier and less RNG dependent in resetting since she starts with it. But I just rush to the Dimensional Tunnel. I don't min-max the Mutant sample just because it's too inconsistent and is another obstacle. If I get it, the better, but not needed, or the end of the world if you don't get it. But when you enter a Dimensional Tunnel, you'll be presented with 2 forbidden card options or no forbidden card options. Ideally, you want to hope to get the forbidden card options, because some forbidden cards are really good, but it's also less fights, which means higher chance to get a divine on the card you want in the tunnel and the encounters in the tunnel. If you get the forbidden card option, you can get Call of the Void, which is the best encounter in the tunnel, because you can select any one of your cards to get a divine. And there are also other 2 encounters that just give an option for a random divine to a random card, so more RNG, but it's at least a chance. Then there's 1 encounter with credits and 1 encounter with reduced stress, which anything without a divine option, it's just bad and unfortunate RNG. But if you don't get the forbidden card option in the beginning, the 2 options, you'll be presented to either fight 2 elites or 3 regular battles, which can proc more epiphanies, which means less chance at a divine on the specific card that you're after or trying to chase. Defeating the 2 elites or 3 regular battles, you'll be presented with a guaranteed divine on a random card, which will be the middle option in the recordings of a toast encounter. The left option will be a random forbidden neutral, usually guaranteeing confiscation, but confiscation without no forbidden is kind of useless unless you have a forbidden card on another deck of another unit, because remember, the recordings of a toast only is if you don't get the forbidden card option at the beginning of the tunnel, so it kind of contradicts itself. And then the right option is just credits, but you always want to take the Dimensional Tunnel in floor 1 and usually never in floor 2, because floor 2 can't get forbidden cards, nor can it give you the question mark encounters to give you a random divine. It's just the recordings of a toast encounter at the end of floor 2. So I guess floor 1 you could get a forbidden card, then floor 2 you can get confiscation, but the reason you don't want to take Dimensional Tunnel in floor 2 is because it skips over question mark encounters outside of the tunnel, meaning less percentage to get Ore Vein, because it's possible you get in an encounter in the first half that was in the second half when you could have just avoided the tunnel, take the encounter in the first half, and possibly got Ore Vein in the later second half. And along with Mutant Sample and Dimensional Tunnel, the Heart of Ore Vein is one of the most important encounters, if not the most important encounter in the entire game, because it offers an extra copy chance at the card you want, allowing you to get 4 copies of a card in that deck, and that's including the base version you start with that isn't copied. And that's where removing non-all unique cards tech comes in, to get a higher chance at copying the card you want. I almost forgot to mention that there's a rare encounter version of the Heart of Ore Vein that allows you to select and dupe any card you want, including forbidden cards, but it's super rare. You will know you got it if the encounter border around the name is glowing gold. There should be a pic of it up on screen anyways, so. And then the triple question mark Core of Discord tech. So in the Dimensional Tunnel, if you are presented with the forbidden card options, you'll get the question mark encounters and will have a choice of choosing the triple question mark option. I usually only choose this option if it is not a random divine or the select divine, because what this does is it gives you a 3rd secret boss after killing the 2nd boss, so you can back out after the 2nd boss and still keep your world, whereas without it your world would just be gone after killing the 2nd boss. But also you can take the triple question mark encounter for more fights to proc Epiphanies, or an extra free shop if you are missing cards or want to remove one last one. But killing the 3rd secret boss will just award you with a mythic gear. So if you don't mind losing your world and you're on a good run and need like Mythic Foggy Crystal Ball or the discard 3 Mythic Chestplate for the perfect run, it can be worth killing the 3rd boss and getting rid of the world. But assuming all RNG goes well, you're on the 1st boss now. If no copy on the card I want, I usually quit due to how inconsistent Heart of the Ore Vein is in the 2nd floor for Lab 0. But it really depends if you're going for a 3 or 4 specific card deck, like a 3 Laser Serennial deck or a 4 Laser Serennial deck. If you're going for a 4 card deck, it's an instant brick and restart restart if you don't get the card copied after the first boss. But if it's a 3-card deck, the run is still alive with the chance at getting it in the Heart of Orvain encounter and the second boss copy. Sometimes I stick with 3-card runs if I luckily can get a good Divine Epiphany on the card I want before getting Orvain and the second boss, but most of the time it's a waste of time and a run for me if I don't get copy on the card I want after the first boss. Explorer of the Void. This is a second floor encounter where he will present you with an option to pass by or for you to answer a question correctly. Upon answering correctly, you will get a divine on a random card. I advise to always take this and never skip, because even if there is no card for a divine, you'll still get credits. But there are 3 different scenarios, and each scenario will have one of 3 options, being Greed, Void, and Hope. And whatever one is listed will be the correct answer for the random divine. Onto the next encounter, Mealtime. It is also a second floor encounter and really good for DPS builds / runs because it basically is an upgraded version of the rare cube that spawns in the shop, and almost 95% of the time you either want the cube or medallion, so this is just extra free damage for your DPS. You'll be presented with an option to challenge the enemy, and that is what you want to do, and you can take credits instead over the medallion, which is valid if you get this encounter while doing a support run. Otherwise, you always want to take the medallion. And then onto Demise Gate. It's also a second floor encounter, but a first half second floor encounter, meaning it spawns before the waypoint. But it used to be so bad and was a useless spot taking up another question mark zone, but it was buffed a few weeks ago and it's actually viable now since it can offer a random card of Divine Epiphany. Even if there is no card for a divine, I still think taking this over the fates is way better since you'll just get credits if no card for divine, and the fates are pretty much useless and why so many people were fed up with the encounter before it was buffed. Onto the next one, Memorandum. It's also another floor 2 encounter. This encounter shares the name with 2 other encounters, making 3 encounters with this name. This encounter can be really good because in one of the encounters you can get yourself the rocket adorned cape, which is really good for supports, giving them an extra draw at the beginning of the battle. But also this can be good for DPS if you can get the monster with the wings encounter with the same name. It offers the wings chest piece gear, which gives more damage to your DPS upon being hit. And then lastly, there can be an encounter where you can select a Divine Epiphany to any card you want, or it can also spawn with an encounter of it being a random divine rather than select. So all of these 3 options are pretty good depending on who you are building that run. Cape for support runs and wings for DPS runs. Nearing the end of the floor 2 encounters, next we have Logic Error. This encounter can offer one of 2 buffs, whether it be decreases the second boss's HP by 30% or applies 2 morale reduction on all enemies for every fight left in the run. If you're struggling with sustain, then those 2 buffs are valid options, but if you're clearing everything easily and need credits for more move or gear, then that is also valid, and I usually do that as I don't have too much trouble with fighting the enemies in Lab 0, so I always prefer credits. And lastly, onto the second floor boss. I already went in depth and talked about the 3rd secret boss, so I don't think I need to cover that anymore. But nothing too special about the second boss. If you got the decreased max HP by 30% buff, this guy will be easy. Even without it, he isn't too hard. He can steal your cards and give them back later, but just beating this guy will give you a choice to copy one of 3 cards, just like the first boss or Heart of Orvain. And something I also noticed is that the second boss has a pretty high chance of dropping Mythic Foggy Crystal Ball or the discard 3 Mythic Chestplate. It's fairly common for him to drop it, and I don't think it's guaranteed, but it's a pretty high chance to get one or the other after defeating him. I've noticed in most of my runs. And with that being said, I think that'll be the end of the video. At the time I'm recording this, it's New Year's. I don't know when this is going to come out, but Happy New Year's to everyone. Stay safe. I hope you had a good Christmas. This video was informative and helped you. I would very much appreciate it if you would like, comment, and subscribe. Let me know what you want to see next. Until then, take care and peace.